Last week, the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness introduced Bill C-83, an act to amend the Corrections and Conditional Release Act and other acts. I rise in the House today to address some serious concerns that Conservatives have with regards to Bill C-83. This bill seeks to eliminate the use of administrative segregation in correctional facilities and replace it with structured intervention units to use prescribed body scanners for inmates, to establish perimeters for access to health care, and to formalize exceptions for Indigenous offenders, women offenders, and offenders with diagnosed mental health conditions. Now, Madam Speaker, while this bill contains some reasonable measures that are worth considering in order to change and improve the overall prison program, I think we need to examine it closely to ensure we are making the best decisions and changes possible to the prison program. Madam Speaker, in recent Supreme Court decisions, the legality of indefinite stays in solitary confinement has been challenged. However, this government is appealing both of those decisions. This legislation applies to transfers and allows the Commissioner to assign a security classification to each penitentiary or to any area within a penitentiary. In a maximum security penitentiary, nothing gets in or out without the strictest controls. Maximum security means maximum security. Now, Madam Speaker, as I understand it, with this new legislation, a maximum security classification could be assigned to any area of a medium or minimum security penitentiary. If that is not the case, I think we need some clarification. Now, Madam Speaker, a maximum security facility has an entire perimeter and security system that is designed to guarantee maximum security. If you were to change a section of a minimum or medium security penitentiary, would these security measures also be put into place? Now, this bill does have one very good idea, and that is using body scanners. However, I believe that it should be expanded for anyone who enters the facility that is not an inmate or employee. Body scan searches would make it possible to control at least 95% of the substances that individuals bring into prisons, because they will show whether there is anything hidden on a person's body. Madam Speaker, it is no secret that all kinds of things are brought into prisons. This legislation also proposes to eliminate administrative segregation in corrections facilities and replace it with a newly created structured intervention unit. Solitary confinement is a common and legitimate safety measure many Western countries take to protect guards from dangerous and volatile prisoners. The introduction of structured intervention units may pose a risk to both prison guards, inmates, and the inmates in question for whom solitary confinement is used for their own safety. Now, Madam Speaker, another problem with this bill is reflected in the spirit of the law. These are the worst criminals in Canada. They are murderers, rapists, and you name it, and they're in maximum security prisons. The intent of these proposed changes is to take these people and create a structured intervention unit for them. They will spend less time in cells, and they'll be put together to interact. The prison environment is a unique environment. It is a closed environment. The officers who work there are at risk every day because they have to deal with the worst thugs and the worst criminals in Canada. Prisoners want to control their environment as much as possible, like anyone else. This is difficult for our officers who work 24/7 to keep these prisoners under control, keep the guards and the rest of the prisoners safe. Taking away disciplinary segregation will make prisons less safe and more dangerous for the guards, as they'll have to deal with the most volatile being out and about from their cells for 4 hours a day. We cannot support Bill C-83 in its present form. There are some things that will work, such as installing scanning equipment. However, Madam Speaker, we believe that creating structured interventions will not. Additionally, it is concerning that this government has not been able to tell Canadians how much the implementation of these measures will cost. Corrections Canada has confirmed that they are not able to estimate how much this bill will cost Canadians. This government seems to it is acceptable to table uncosted legislation which will increase the conflict of the most violent prisoners at the expense of the taxpayer. Let's look back at the McClintock case again. This murderer's transfer from a maximum security prison to an Indigenous healing lodge has had a lot of people concerned and upset and talking. This is someone who should be serving her sentence in a maximum security prison. In a maximum security prison, such offender has their own cell. They eat, they sleep, they take classes if they so choose, and they can go back to their cells. They are protected because they are living in a maximum security environment. However, for reasons still not understood, it was decided to send this person to a place with virtually no security. From what I understand, Bill C-83 would allow McClintock's room in the healing lodge to be designated a maximum security room. Again, it appears though it is this Liberals government priority to put the rights and comforts of violent murderers and rapists ahead of the rights of victims. If what I understand is true, then Bill C-83 is going to be dangerous to Canadian safety. It does not care about a maximum security prison sentence means or what keeping Canadians safe means. Instead, it prioritizes the rights of Canada's most violent and dangerous criminals. Instead of changing the Corrections and Conditional Release Act to make sure killers like Terry Lynn McClintock are cut behind bars, this bill defines and softens the law to make prison time easier for criminals. I think Canadians know, Madam Speaker, that this government is not serious about being tough on crime, and it puts Canadian safety at risk. If this keeps up, things are bound to get worse. The government should be taking rational measures that are consistent with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Prisoners have rights, of course, but it's all in the way things are done. The approach outlined in Bill C-83 is not in line with what the Conservatives consider to be an effective way to manage penitentiary. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The honourable member for Whitby.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank my honourable colleague for his speech. Madam Speaker, I'm going to go back to repeat the same things that I've said before in my questions to the honourable members. When we talk about removing individuals from removing administrative segregation and still having the capacity to separate individuals who pose a safety risk, separate them from the general population, and put them into secure intervention units. Not only doing that, Madam Speaker, but also giving the resources necessary for them to receive mental health services, rehabilitative programming, and other interventions so that we could decrease the likelihood that they will continue to pose a safety risk, not only to the staff, but to other people within the institution. I'm going to ask my honourable colleague, does he not believe that there should be any mercy in this system, and to look at how we can integrate or help individuals who are in a prison system to be able to be reintegrated back into prison or back into our communities?
The honourable member for Oxford.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. And when we talk of mercy, we also need to think of mercy of the victims who have been victimized by these people who are put in prisons. My colleague understands that what this is, I think, is the same as we do, is that we're going to take these people from segregated cells, and if you had the opportunity to visit Kingston in the old days, where you would have had Clifford Olson, Paul Bernardo, Willie Picton, some of these people all there, many times they're there for not only the safety of the guards and other prisoners, but for their own safety. I'm not so sure that we understand exactly what it means to move them all out into more of a general population. But at the same time, they also had all of the rights for medical personnel, for health care, for everything that we talk about in here, and it's not changing that. Those provisions are already there within the prison system.